Hello and welcome to Upload,
a podcast by those who upload for those who want to.
or who already do.
And anyone else for that matter.
My name is Lionheart and I've been creating content for over a decade.
And my name's Midgeman and I've been trying to create content for almost a decade.
Together with some of our friends and fellow content creators, we're going to be exploring the great big world of content creation.
We'll be looking into the serious topics that face content creators today.
Because if someone said that to me like in person, or said that kind of stuff to me, IRL, I wouldn't take it. So why would I take it like online? Why would I hide aspects of sort of my identity?
As well as some less serious topics.
I've been blindsided by the fact that one of your old live streams is called Suck My Missile for like the last
Sorry,
10
what?
minutes.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Upload.
Hello and welcome to Upload, the content creator podcast for those who upload, those who want to, and everyone else for that matter. My name is Midgeman.
And I'm Lionheart.
And before we get on with today's show, we have a few things to cover, which is, of course, please remember to like, rate, turn on any auto downloaders you have for this show. And if you want to get in touch with us, remember to comment or get in touch with us at our email, hello@uploadpodcast.co.uk.
This week features a special guest. She's Twitch's ambassador, part of Twitch's Women's Guild, and she's a mainstay of the industry who's been in content creation for over a decade. She's helped raise over $100,000 for charity, and is frankly one of the most inspirational creators out there. So please welcome the wonderful Lomadiah, Hannah Rutherford to the show.
Hello. Hi. A bit of a reach to say all of that, but thank you. That's very kind.
It's true. And one of the things we wanted to, I know, we'll get on to, oh God, I'm already fumbling things. I don't think it's a very big reach because I know for me personally, you are someone that I have followed for a long time, that I've always looked to for when something's happened in the creator space, your voice in it. You've always been someone that is just on it and honest and, I think a leader in the field. So we are so happy to have you on the show. But for those who might not know you, do you want to just give a little bit about yourself?
So I'm Hannah or Lomadiah. I've been doing content creation for I think it's over 15 years now. I think if you count in all the editing and the various other bits and bobs over on YouTube and stuff, then about 15 years. Now on Twitch, still do the same kind of content, so lots of variety content. We generally have a focus on like narrative storytelling, action adventure, but not 100% of the time. Like if it's a fun game, Balatro, I'm in. Alongside that, I also do a lot of like charity consultancy work because the amount of stuff that I have done across the years with fundraising anyway, there are certain experiences, paths, but also conversations I've had with charities where there are gaps in the field. So I'm trying to help creators and charities bridging those gaps with some side consultancy, basically. That's kind of me. And yeah, I do some Women's Guild stuff. I do some Twitch ambassador stuff. Like mostly that's just them inviting me because thank you. But dabble around in those spaces as well with kind of similar things. So that's me in a rambly little nutshell.
I mean, the Twitch ambassador is great because it means you get to bully Dan Clancy.
Within reason, like poor Dan, I've accidentally every year bullied Dan. The first year it was like asking him if he could help me get a friend to the disabled toilets. This year, slightly less bullying, but I have seen him in person. So sorry, Dan, if you ever see this. He always likes to listen, which I think is great, and he does actually turn up and talk to people. Not just the ambassadors. He was wandering around the show floor at TwitchCon, and I don't think I've actually ever seen, naming those specific names, but previous Twitch CEOs doing that in any way, shape, or form. So it's not a perfect site. It probably will never be a perfect site. But that is a really nice step forwards in the right direction of actually meeting the people who use it and understanding them. Being
willing to listen and showing that you're willing to listen, and no one's under the illusion that you're going to be able to implement all those things, or even that, through listening to some of the things, that those are actually valuable things to add in at points. But the fact that they're willing to actually now go, look, kind of going to go among the people and find out actually, and because I think that's always the biggest complaint that comes up is that creators feel they're not listened to, or that when a company comes out and says, hey, we spoke to this focus group, and it's like, that's the wrong group of people to ask.
It's absurd because the amount of things that annoy me in the industry that are like could be solved by just talking to each other is ridiculous.
Just talk to actual people that are using your platform.
And also, I would love, so like, we're not going to name any specific names, but there are certain like websites out there that will offer you deals for a certain amount of views, blah, blah, blah. Usually quite heavily undercut to the point that they are not actually legal in terms of like the cost of living payment, like it's below minimum wage. I know for a fact that certain websites are actually allocated budgets for specific people and they've not offered them. There's things like 600 quid has gone missing in the past.
We've spoken about that before, yeah.
Yes, we have, exactly. And it's like it's not a necessarily industry secret, but it's like I would love it if companies, and I get that it's extra time, but just go to that creator and go, hey, did you get this budget that we discussed? Because just spot check. You don't have to do every single person, but if you start doing these checks,
just a few little bits, it prevents them taking advantage.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that kind of thing where it's like, that tires me in the industry, because it just means that creators are forced to not only undervalue themselves, but if it's newer creators, they don't know their own worth. So they do take the money, or it's people who can't afford to not. And then it just makes it worse. It
has a knock-on effect because the companies think, okay, we can keep lowballing.
Yeah, they've got the receipts. It works.
I mean, I think we were on the same Discord, aren't we, for a few creators that it's very good. I pop into it maybe a couple of times a month just to see kind of what the latest rant is or the latest agency to add to my list of I'm avoiding that because they're scum.
It's like, we'd love to work with you folks, but you need to like start pricing properly.
We understand that you don't have the in-house teams to manage all these campaign stuff, so you use these agencies, but like, please check check that what you're stipulating actually gets done and delivered. Like, I actually, funny enough, I did have like a spot check come back. It was probably about a couple of years ago now, but they were like, oh, we were told we didn't do the deliverable. And I was like, here's the video, here's the analytics. Like, and I was like, you know me, like, right? Like, we've done stuff directly. I mean, for this one, you used an agency. We can jump on a call and sort this out within probably about half an hour of what you want, the amount and deliverables. We don't need anything in between if you're willing to do that, because look at the problems it could, like, because it's like, they weren't like, oh, it's damaged our relationship, but it could very easily for others damage creator relations that, you know, people have invested a lot of time into.
And it's a shame because there's some fantastic agencies out there that are like, we want to have organic matches. We want it to work. It shouldn't be the amount of viewers you have. It should be, because like, spoilers, if you're watching this or listening to this, if you're a massive channel and you pay money to somebody, like you get paid money to do a deal, you're not necessarily going to have more engagements and click-throughs. People aren't going to necessarily buy the game because you have more viewers. If anything, they're probably not going to bother because you are not engaging with the chat because there's too many people, as opposed to if you gave it to a small to medium-sized creator who might have a really engaged audience who's like, oh my God, I really want to play this. And it's just sad because it's like, if you took, say, the amount you gave one creator and you split that between 20 creators, they would still have enough to pay their bills at the end of the month. Like, that's the kind of money we're talking about.
And suddenly, oh, look, those archaic metrics that actually aren't super relevant, but you like for your key performance ones, suddenly you can check them off on your big old check sheet going like, look at what we all put here, because you're looking at conversion ratios. We've said it before on here, like working with some agencies, some are an absolute delight. And some are just awful to deal with. I haven't had it for a few years because I think finally they've worked it out that it isn't a good metric. But I remember like the first few ones I used to get, like sort of early sort of 2014, 2015, when I was kind of been going full time for a couple of years. They would always be like, right, so we want 20,000 views on this video. And I was like, if I could guarantee views, do you think I'd be taking this pitiful little like video? Like, if I could go, right, yeah, that video is going to get 1 million views. Boom. Yeah, thanks for choosing instantly I know everything I need to know about you guys and that I don't want to work with you because you're stipulating a metric that I don't have control over. I will try my best to get you as many views as possible, but as many views as possible might just be 10.
Yeah, because it's not your choice. You're in the mercy of the algorithm.
I'm gonna try as best as possible. I don't want a video to flop, but I also don't have that control. You know, I might be able to say, hey, it's probably based off of stuff I've done in the past going to be somewhere between maybe 5,000 and 10,000, but you know, it's sponsored. That might bump people off straight away. Whatever. It's in that range, and even then, that's with a whole bucket full of salt of, you know, because it could ping off and go completely the other direction and not do anything.
And I think that stuff has stayed, but it's changed format almost. So we probably still have those things floating out there. I'd imagine that various various free-to-play games that exist probably still do those, but they also like to do like the amount of signups. They've switched to like the quite egregious, like if you get 50 signups, you get more money, etc. The 50 signups also mean probably that the player has to get to a certain level, blah blah blah.
We literally did this, didn't we? Like
it's-
last week.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's
how
it's
bad
diminishing
it is,
returns,
yeah.
and it's
3 episodes ago
Yeah.
now, probably. I think the evolution of the various KPIs is slowly changing, and I think that's also because more creators are going into the professional side of the space. I think more and more people who understand the metrics more and more are going in, which I think is a really nice segue to talk about our main topic today, which is going to be like charity stuff, which is something that you are doing, Hannah. You were a creator that has gone, I do a lot for charity, but I'm also noticing that either charities don't interact with the space correctly or creators are lost in a world of charities, and it's something that you are looking to fix. So let's talk about charity and let's go to a creator first. And what would be your primary piece of advice for a creator looking to raise money for charity? Let's start off there.
Okay, so I guess the first thing is cause, right? So like for me, a lot of the time it won't necessarily be reactionary, but it will be there's a charity in mind and we go from there. Some people instead, it's more of a I need to fund, like I want to support breast cancer this month. What charities have we got? Have a little look. In terms of where they're available, there are various different fundraising tools. You do have things like Twitch Charity, you have Just Giving in the UK, but you also have Tiltify. Tiltify will always be, well, I say will always be, for the foreseeable future, unless something changes, it's always the one I will say you should use first and foremost, because it's got the most, if you're doing live content, it's got the best like overlays and various tie-ins that make it a little bit easier.
Tool set, yeah.
Yep, they've got polls, they've got milestones. There are various things that you can create as an overlay that work really well for it. The other thing is not only that, but they either pay the money out immediately, or if it's international, I think it's a week, as soon as they can, basically. But the most important thing is the charity is told what you're doing and is pointed to you. Which charity tool does not do that? Because the way it works is it runs through PayPal Giving, which is on one hand a quite valuable fund because it allows for like TikTok, Instagram, those kind of things to pop up and do their like, again, reactionary fundraising. Like Creators for Palestine, $1.5 million in May. I think that was Twitch Charity tool, but it's like that kind of stuff. It should be there for that. The problem with it is at the moment, there's no way for the charity to find out. And also because it's PayPal pays them at the end of the month a lump sum. So it's really hard to track. So like if you're a creator and you're going to use the Twitch Charity tool, which is totally fair, it does have like tie-ins to the alert system as well. Reach out to the charity and let them know who you are so you have that tie. I would say Tiltify, start a fundraiser, have a little look at the features. You may have some nice ideas. There's stuff like milestones on there, targets, loads of things that you can embellish your stream with. That's kind of where I go. And again, normally there is a charity that's either already approached me or it's a ongoing relationship. So for example, Safe in Our World and Special Effect, two amazing charities in the gaming space. One does mental health and gaming, including working with devs. So obviously at the moment with all the layoffs, incredibly important. And then Special Effect is a accessibility and disability charity that advocates for change, but also works with folks so that everyone can game. So like they always get a specific time of the year because it's their like time, their month, their campaigns. And then the rest of the year is pocketed around with whatever's going on for me. So yeah, I'd say just pick something, have a little look at all the charities, have a browse of the pages, see which one, I guess, resonates with you the best, or, you know, you want a little bit of information about what they do and those kind of things. If they haven't got that, it makes it a lot more challenging for you as a creator to then present something to your audience. Excuse the ramble. There you go.
Incredible. No. Oh, we are 99% ramble here.
It's so much so we ramble too hard that we ramble overlapping each other and the lovely, wonderful Dan and Foxy who edit this.
They told us off, didn't they?
Yeah, we get told off. So that was a coherent ramble. We are incoherent ramble, but no,
we would have gone on at least like 10 segues by then. Yeah.
Oh, I'm reining it in. I
mean, solid first advice. It's been so long for me. I've done charity in the past, but it's one of those I've always struggled to make time for it, sadly. Like in the world of content creation, I did one 24-hour mega stream. I used to try and do one a year, but then when I split to do more of the being in the industry sort of thing, as well as content creation, it became much harder. So how do you go about like picking a time to do it? Like when do you think's the best time, especially when we're trying to juggle like when's right for your audience? Like there's moments in the year where people can't give as much. How would you go about identifying the best time for you to get involved with a charity?
It depends on your schedule, right? And this is partially what I'm trying to teach charities is, number one, we are effectively crowdfunded by our communities. So there's a financial element to it as much as there is a bandwidth and time element. It's like this creator may not be able to afford to fundraise for you. Although, fun fact, if you're listening, folks, 67% of fundraising and also creators and watchers are smaller, medium-sized channels. So there's quite a lot there's a lot of engagement that happens in these smaller spaces. It's just they don't always have the free time or the ability to do that. So it is managing that. I would say if you're starting out or you're in whatever position where you're going, I want to fundraise for charity, but I can't commit to a big thing, maybe just try one thing and try it at a quieter time of the year. For like, if it's games release time or it's October, like October onwards, you're going to be competing for like sponsorships and brand deals potentially. On one hand, that means you have some money coming in, so you could do some fundraising, but on the other hand, you may not have the time. So it's worth sitting down and looking at your entire calendar and going, when is good for me, but also when is good for my community. So like I've got a quite hefty representation for the LGBTQ community. So it's like, well, a Pride charity would be great. What should we do for Pride? I was not here for most of Pride this year, which is very unsupportive as an ally. So they got some free Pokemon Pride emotes and a rotating thing in chat. But it's like I sort of owe them something for that, right? Because of the Safe in Our World and Special Effect relationships, they normally get like February and May from me as standard, and October if I have time. So like I'm already penciled in around the year for different things. And then I have to sit and look at that and go, have I got space for more charity stuff on the channel? Or is that enough? Like, are we done?
Something I kind of struggle with. I feel guilty at times, sort of like saying I'd love to, but like loop me in for next year's campaign or something like that, just so that give me enough time to try and schedule it in. Because the stuff I've done, in fact, I actually took since 2019, since my dad passed, we've supported a charity that he was very close with called Canine Partners, and they help train assistance dogs for a wide range of people with disabilities or that need the support or what have you. I think it was probably like a grief coping mechanism the first Christmas, because he passed away in the November, and that December I was like, I want to do something to distract myself, something that's meaningful as well. And I was like, well, let's fundraise some money for Canine Partners. So we did this ever increasing like series of challenges and rewards every £1,000 raised. And then that kind of became a thing within my community. It's like, oh, next December, are you doing another one? And I was like, yeah. And it's slowly spilled over from like, I think it started as like a week or two in December to it's now all December, then into January. And then I have to put like a hard cut off at some point. Because I'm like,
no more.
Yeah.
Calm down.
I mean, I took a pause last year because I was like, I'm tired thinking about planning it. And because I want it, and I think because it's got a very personal meaning for me, that I know that I'm kind of doing it in memory of my dad, I want it to be me at my best. And I was like, you know what? I need a year without it so that I can come back this year, even if I just do exactly the same things that I've been doing, hot sauce challenges and silly things and dyeing the beard different colors and probably ending up shaving it off and feeling like a bald egg for a while, which is cold in January, to say the least. When I've had those, I often feel guilty when other stuff comes in, because one, I'm like, well, in the nicest way possible, I don't want to split my audience between different fundraising topics. Like I'm going to be biased. Like Canine Partners obviously has a very special place for me, so that's where I would like to focus. But obviously, you know, I'm not trying to say one cause is more important than another. They're all, you know, so important. And it's just, I feel often, quite guilty saying I can't dedicate that time, because it's such as you say, a juggling act of trying to fit that within a busy schedule anyway. So like my default is that if I'm passionate about a cause that comes in, or I genuinely want to work them, I say, look, I just try and be as honest as I can, say, look, I'm absolutely slammed. I would love to do this. But I want to commit the right way. I don't want to say, oh, I'll just quickly throw together a quick stream for you.
But that's the right attitude to have entirely.
Like, let me know when your next big fundraising event is, and if I can, I will. But if not, let's just keep bothering me. Like, I don't mind the constant emails. Like, keep coming back to me, and if I can, I'll loop in. And I mean, something I did not last year because I took that off, but the year before, when I was feeling a little bit burnt out, and I was like, I still want support. I did fundraising throughout all of December, but I made it a lot more passive. So it was just kind of having the overlay there. So it was there if people wanted to, and like if they had the bot commands and the like exclamation mark, I think like dogs or something like that was the command or something for people and natively people see that and go, oh, what's dogs? And oh yeah, charity, cool, check that out. And so I did that, and then as it scaled up a little bit, then I don't know, felt reinvigorated to get like, okay, fine, the hot sauce is coming back, guys. We're gonna dye the beard a silly color again. Yeah, what I'm looking forward to doing again this December, but it's always a struggle of like, there's so many other causes I want to support. How can you do that? And I think it probably is that you can't. No, you can't. That's the thing.
And one of the things that I like, again, there are various reasons that I started doing charity consultancy. One of them was just like, certain individuals in the space, or companies in the space, should we say, I unveiled themselves as being not particularly philanthropic or charitable. And I was so annoyed by the fact that charities and also creators and also their own staff had been taking advantage of it. I was like, surely there should be better stuff in the industry. And there is not. To quote a very lovely person, Geeky Cassie, who creates everything out of spite. All of her projects are out of spite. I'm with her on that. And it was just frustration, because it's like, I've been here, I've seen this happening. I talk to charities, I talk to folks at Tiltify. I know that this can be better. And one of the things is communicating with creators in a way that doesn't make you feel guilty. The American charities have a serious issue because they do a lot of marketing department type stuff. I have had a couple of American charities who will read what you put and will go, oh yes, but just a little thing. And it's like, no, that's not the right behavior. It is entirely on them to do better, but also creators should feel safe in the ability to go, no, I can't do this. And one of the things when I'm doing this consultancy is not only teaching them ideally the appropriate behavior or ethical outreach, but it's like before you even begin outreach, you're looking at creator socials and going, what's going on with them? And I'm not saying in like a creepy, stalky way, not getting up in all of your business. But we do have to do things like due diligence anyway. Like if I'm working with a mental health helpline charity, if I see a creator who is like really like not great on any of those attitudes, thinks that mental health is a waste of time, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, no, you're done. Like we're obviously not going to outreach to you. But within that, if it was someone who was like yourselves, and it was just like, yep, they're great, but you posted that, for example, you just had another baby, or you were moving house, or there was illness. And it's like, I see that and I go, right, they're great, but not now. Note in the spreadsheet to check back 3 months, 6 months later, see how they're doing. And it's like, there's things that could be done. Or for example, if they're a really vocal advocate for a charity. So like, for example, if we say like St. Jude, right? A lot of people have St. Jude ambassador in their profile. It's like, mark that down, because there are dates of the year when St. Jude has stuff.
Yeah, you're not going to want to be running. Yeah,
don't waste your time. Again, it's that like bridging the gap information wise. It's saying to creators, you are allowed to say no. Don't feel bad. Like there are so many creators out there. My God, like if charities can't look and search for authentic leads, then I'm also here. But it's something that they need to do better at. And they just, it's part of this big educational thing of like, not all streamers are gamers, and also millennials are the top demographic in that.
I appreciate they're not trying to make me feel guilty, but that's how I feel. And it's just about, you say, like just understanding it a little bit better and finding ways to more effectively communicate that. And in fact, actually, you mentioning about like checking to see if there's been any live events. I had a potential sponsor DM me just to kind of do a quick follow up saying, oh, we haven't heard from you, just wanted, and they were like within the same bit, because I was about to type back saying, well, I've just had a baby. They were like, oh my day, you've had a baby, congratulations. And I was like, they were like, forget everything, and they were like, you're happy, and I was just like,
yes,
great, like no worries, like I'm genuinely interested in this, but like please like nudge me again in like another month or two, because my brain now still, it's been like 2 months and I still
The
best
thing
of
is,
times.
You can see the evolution of that through this podcast because we started it to cover your paternity leave.
Oh my God. Yeah. Remember we started this and I was fully rested and with it and I've just gone downhill. Like we had that episode where I think I said to you afterwards, I was like, I need you guys to just, when you watch that back for the edit, can you just check if I made any coherent sense? Because I feel like so spaced out.
Sleep deprivation.
Which Lionheart appears on the podcast today? Is he with it? Is he not? Does he even know who he is today?
I rarely do, so don't worry about it.
Just to track back a little bit in terms of just another little thing that I tend to do, because I'm someone that's, again, my calendar is so far flung. It's like the last charity thing I did, I think, was 2017 or 2018, which is ridiculously a long time ago. I did a 24-hour stream for Macmillan, and it was a great thing, but I haven't been able to, just because I'm a bad juggler of time.
Well, you say this, 24-hour marathons, generally nowadays, we don't do them. We advise against them.
No, I was going to say, please. I always say as well when I said that, I never want to do that again. It was unhealthy.
This is the thing. It is unhealthy. And it's another thing where it's like charities encourage it because they see like, there's loads of like Comic Relief does things like that, but it's like Comic Relief is not one person. It's an absolute buttload of teams, celebrities. The baton is passed between people every half an hour. If you're going to do 24-hour marathons, you have to have a team of people taking over and doing cover, because on an actually but quite serious note that creators don't like, they're like, oh, just tough it out, it'll be fine, I'll cope. It's like, yes, but we have had 2 people who have died during 24-hour marathons. Luckily not on camera. Horrible for them, horrible for the family. Again, it's no one's fault. This person had an underlying heart condition they didn't know, but it just means that like suddenly there's a load of additional guilt, but also if, for example, the charity had been out there actively encouraging and pushing people to do 24-hour marathons, is there a liability? I have no idea. This was in America, so possibly. But it's just not healthy. And especially if it's something like, I guess, a bit less Macmillan, it's still a health charity, so not healthy. But if it was like a mental health charity, or can you imagine like a sleep problem charity, something like that? It's like, no, I get no. Like stay awake for the sleep apnea charity. It's like, no.
I've only done one, but I did that. I had 2 other people with me, and I mean, we went for most of the time, but one we just had that like backup of like. And I remember we had like a 3 a.m. pizza break for about 15 minutes. I remember like just having that solid pause and being like, this is one of the best pizza that I've ever had in my life. And it was like the 99p ones from Tesco or whatever.
It's weird. It's like 3 a.m. Everything's amazing and also horrible.
It has been, because we're in the middle of converting my garage into a dedicated studio so I can get out of the house and be a bit more focused there. And one of the things that I have, sort of said is that and my community goes, oh, you'll be in there. You'll be able to do a 24-hour stream because you won't have to worry about keeping the kids up. And I was like, the only way I would do it is if I could have people with me coming in and doing it. If I'm staying up for that whole time, checking in on me all the time, but ideally giving me a chance to go and have a nap for a good few hours.
Also, how thick is your garage wall? Like, your neighbours are going to be like, what's he doing at 3 a.m. in there?
Oh, no, we have insulated the crap out of it.
It's a cool conversion cover.
There is so much Celotex in those walls and rock wool, and we had a bouncy castle up for my son's 3rd birthday the other day, and we haven't had it plaster skimmed yet, but I took a few people in there to kind of show them the space they wanted to have a look at it. And I was like, actually, this would be a good sound test. Close that door and see if we can hear we could hear the faintest, lowest hum of the generator and I was like, I think I paid the extra £2 it was going to be for acoustic soundboard, and we just stuff the walls with this rock wool stuff. So hopefully the neighbors won't hear me. I won't hear them. Great for a horror stream, because the community also wants me to replay the nightmare-inducing Alien Isolation. Join me this December for probably 24-hour stream baton passing with friends playing Alien Isolation. Oh God, why 24 is happening? Yeah.
It's so good. It's held up really well. I played it earlier in the year, I think.
It's my favourite game that Creative Assembly make. And obviously they make Total War, which is my main thing. But whenever people say, oh, what's your favourite game? I mean, most people say, what's your favourite Total War game? But I always sort of say, well, if you ask me what my favourite Creative Assembly game is, it's not a Total War game. It's Alien Isolation, because it's the most immersive game I think I've ever played. Just on a sound design level, it's just,
Also, it's scaled really well graphically. Like it looks great on new systems.
And it's just terrifying. It's terrifying to play. I remember, like, it's a sign of a solid immersive experience when people talk about a specific section and how it terrifies them. When people always mention medical. Yeah, so there we go. See, before I can even say it, everyone always knows medical.
When Starfield came, this dates it. When Starfield came out, I went to London to do a Starfield stream for Bethesda, and we must have just started playing Alien Isolation because we were talking about it, me and like Bethesda staff and just general people. Because spoilers, staff are gamers. There's no weird like. No one's got any weird camps. Like, they love each other's things. When Fallout Shelter came out, I was at E3. I was at the Ubisoft booth, and they'd all bloody downloaded it. We're playing under the desk. No one cares. It's games. And every single person I talked to was like, I see you're playing Alien Isolation again. I was like, I'm currently in the medical area.
And everyone's just like...
Everyone knew. Like, I knew, they knew, and it's just like, have fun.
Good luck, yeah.
I've never played this game, and I feel like it's going to have to go on the list.
Oh, right. Dude, right. This December, you're coming to the studio for part of the 24 hour. There we go. Sure. You haven't done one. I've not done one.
Sorted.
We'll get, because when I did my original playthrough of Alien Isolation, I did like the first, I think maybe hour and a half on my own, and then I was too scared to. I was like, I can't actually play it without. I need someone. I need some help.
It's a lot.
I don't mind horror, but like jump scares and stuff just breaks me to my core, and I get so jittery. I mean, I've done the Until Dawn stuff, and what's the one was it Man of Medan?
Yes, Dark Picture stuff. Yeah.
Oh yes.
With the rat falls on the skull. We were doing a charity stream with my wife. She's watching it happily playing, going, "This is great," and I'm like, I can't handle it. I can't handle it.
Have you played Alan Wake 2?
No, I haven't.
Well.
Oh no.
Like when Sam Lake was like, it's going to be Remedy's first survival horror, I was like, don't be silly, Sam. Like, I love you, but no, it is. It's horrible. It's wonderful. But like that and Alien Isolation, I've had a great year. And Still Wakes the Deep. Oh,
Still Wakes the Deep. See, the thing is, I think I would enjoy. So I've played through all the Outlast games, and I was looking at Still Wakes the Deep. I was like, this is scary, but at the same time, it's like there's enough humor in here that I feel like I can just vibe with it a bit more.
You can, yeah. It's not Outlast. Like, there's a couple of I think I hid in a locker once. Like, you don't need the lockers. You can also be, I would say, with both Alien and Still Wakes the Deep, you can turn down the like difficulty bit. You'll still have the same experience. The alien will still hunt you all over the place. It's just...
You'll still need new pants.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more forgiving in, like, if they punch you in the face.
Midge, come pee your pants this December for 24 hours. There we go. That's happening.
This is a really good segue into one of my other questions, which is how... but not the pants, but...
now it just got weird.
Okay. But before I jump onto that segue, I just wanted to say a little tiny piece of advice that I sometimes do is like, it's not necessarily of a thing. Like, if you don't have time as a creator to give some time to do a full stream for a charity, just say to them, when's your next thing? Let me know, and I will signal boost it, because that's as much as another big thing you can do. But
we always say, because like, viewers feel guilty as well, not being able to financially contribute. Like, retweet, drop a comment, engagement. Like I said to them, I'm getting contacted by sponsors because you guys have engaged in my content. Like, and that's free for you guys to do. And, you know, with however I do stuff, it's always going to be free on how I do. And you going in and liking it, retweeting, dropping a silly GIF or just something semi-relevant.
Or just raising awareness that someone else is doing a stream.
Helps massively. I mean, like, from an algorithmic purpose as well, we always say a like or a dislike on a video is so much better than no rating at all. Like, it just boosts it so much, either because it's controversial, because it's getting weird ratios of likes to dislikes, or it's being disliked into oblivion, that'll still get pushed. Or if it's being liked a load, it'll still get pushed. So it's a couple of seconds of your time, and it's a brilliant way to help support charity, content creators in general, whatever.
Absolutely. Which then jumps me back to the segue, which is, how do you go about picking a game to do for a charity stream? Because obviously we've touched a little bit on the horror, but I know you do crowd play stuff now.
So CrowdControl is it's a separate thing to charity as well. It's an existing feature that works with some games, not all games, where CrowdControl works with mod makers to create basically your viewers can buy coins or donate if it's fundraising to activate certain things in the game. So, like the main one that I do is Skyrim. It is sometimes a little bit limited because charities have to sign up to the CrowdControl stuff via Tiltify, which does cost them a little bit because obviously someone has to pay CrowdControl for their service. I think they just about break even as well. It's not like a particularly lucrative thing, but it is kind of cool. Like there's Resident Evil, I want to say 4 and 2 remake is on there now. I think Elden Ring is on there.
It is, yeah. I just had to check that Alien Isolation wasn't on there because that would kill me.
Yeah, no. I think somebody in my chat was like, "Do you think it's on there?" And I was like, "We're not looking."
No. No.
There's like Mario games, various other things like that. Like, there's some really, really nice
GTA, Stardew Valley.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that's like either already has mods or is moddable. But that's quite fun. We do Skyrim. Again, it's relatively limited just because the charities, that charity has to be on there. So we haven't done it for a little bit. And I say playing Skyrim, loading up the game, getting attacked by like 50 mud crabs that break the game. So the game, I think, must have some sort of internal memory that it hits and then it goes, I'm done. At that point, all the NPCs either stop pathing, so they just stand, they don't animate, or they start floating up into the sky. So
going home now.
Yes, so literally like all the crabs are rapturing up into the sky. You can have like horses go up, bandits go up, everything goes up, like chickens, they can spawn in all of this shit. They could also spawn in dragons. So you've got the rapture situation happening. You have to reload the game to get everyone to fall down to the floor again, which obviously they all die from fall damage. But hey,
they take the fall damage. I was going to ask if they take the
it's so
damage.
messy. It's ridiculous. And then dragons, they can spawn in anywhere. So there are caves with dragons in that we can't go in anymore. I'm pretty sure that Bellathor's general goods store is still not only without Bellathor because the dragon might have killed him, but also it lives in there. I can't actually physically go in there.
It's his store now.
The best part is I was like, we need to deal with this dragon because meanwhile, right, not only is this dragon like pathing through the walls, right? He's in the skybox for this house, whatever this skybox is. So he just flies through it. And every time he flies through it, he collides with every single object and knocks it over. So you're like, oh, this lovely book. Oh, what's a nice... Oh, no, the book's gone. So that's happening, which is, I think, where Bellathor got murdered. I was like, we need to take the wall off. We need to, get into the console. We need to take the wall off. I need to get rid of this dragon because this dragon is a problem. I accidentally disassembled half the house trying to hit this dragon. Still don't know where Bellathor is, and half the house is still missing.
Quest for Bellathor.
But if you don't deal with them, if you're in, a village area, they can teleport between the houses. So I was just like, oh, Bellathor's we just won't shop here anymore. We'll go somewhere else. I went in next door. He's never gone. So that save, I don't know how they've managed it. That save is 4 years old.
That's amazing.
All we have to do is every now and then just restart it. But because Skyrim auto saves all the time, the general rule is unless something massive has happened and it's now just resolved. So we've dealt with 3 dragons inside a room and and there's just horses everywhere. We know where I've been because there's horses. They just spawn horses in to physically block me to get through dungeons. So I'm trying to get through these. I'm trying to get through these horses. There's a dragon coming in, and just general other stuff. Occasionally they'll summon a witch or something. Plus, somebody's stealing my lockpicks and someone else is giving me money. It's just all going on. An absolute mess. So the save, I think, is still going strong, but some areas we just can't go into anymore. They've ruined it.
It's just just get the map and be cross that off. Can't go there.
Yeah, but we did also do, not for charity, we did also do Pokemon Fire Red, which was interesting because chat teleported me to the end of the game within the first 10 minutes of playing, which broke the game because the game thought we'd entered New Game Plus.
Yeah.
So we had to go on a 6-hour tangent to make it all work, and actually finish the game. But that was fun because they gifted me Pokemon. So I had Mew and Mewtwo, all of the ridiculous amount of legendaries. That was just for fun. But then the other side, when we go back to charity things, the non-crowd control stuff, we do things like we build a zoo in Planet Zoo. So if it's a charity stream and I haven't got that kind of crowd control element, it's like, well, we'll just make our own. So it's like, okay, Planet Zoo, here's the charity zoo. At this point, we've had like 6 or 7 charity zoos because the rule is that we just play until the game save can't handle it. Which it gets quite big. They get pretty chunky, these zoos. And we put like entrance limits on for the like people coming in. But at a certain point, the amount of foliage that is in there just makes it cry. Name a staff member, name an animal, pick an animal. What habitat are we doing? At one point, they were like, for $2, can we name bins after other chat members? And I was like, so long as it's all friends, like, fine. So it's just there was a row of bins in one zoo that was just named after like 5 different people.
It's a very easy way for creators if they're not sure what kind of game's going to fit. Just look at the roster of games that you play that have those little customizable elements, and then you monetize for charity those little bits. I mean, for Total War, you can like name your unit. So often, or in Crusader Kings when we play that, name the child when it's born or something like that, and or rename this kingdom or something like that. And there's just a very simple way of building into the because you want it to be authentic. You want to be playing games that you're going to have fun doing as well. But I mean, like you just describing Skyrim there, that's just such a kind of a fun, different way. Or I say fun, chaotic.
It's mild torture at any point.
It is. I afterwards I will need to go and have a rest because it is an endurance thing. 'Cause it's like, right, I want to go over to this cave. Are you going to let me go to this cave? No.
I think that's games though, isn't it? It's the kind of the enjoyment of getting a totally different experience, and you've raised some money for charity at the same time. It's like it's win-win, right? And your community is probably the most engaged they've been for a while because they're having so much fun themselves, causing you pain and hilarity for everyone else.
What's also interesting is like it's there. I've never pointed it out. I've never turned it off. You can just kill me immediately in Skyrim. One person has done it in about 4 years because they're like, oh, that's not fun. Like 5 dragons, that's more fun.
Put the suffering in the challenge. But I think what all of this is kind of getting at is look for games and ways with both your existing library and other libraries of baking the incentives in and kind of almost involving the viewership into it, for gaming anyway.
If it's like natively there with a small little tweak, it works so well.
Also, another thing that I do is pub quizzes every Christmas. It's not quite the big fat pub quiz of the year or whatever that's called. Can't remember if they've changed the name. But it's that kind of thing of like, you turn up, there's going to be some categories that I've just created from nowhere. Have fun.
Foxy, the editor, who she used to be very heavy in charities. I think it was about $6,000 you raised. So little clap to you. But she used to do a quiz and I had to stop playing them because I kept winning and I didn't want to. I felt guilty that other people didn't have a chance because they'd be in teams of 6 and it would just be like me and one other. And it would be like, because I get very competitive at quizzes. So don't let me join your quiz.
Well, I mean, you're welcome. They're all quite competitive. Every time
game on.
Every time I end up with Quizmasters.
Midgeman enters the chat.
Also, you say this, you don't know what the category is going to be. Food and drink. And it is picture clues for names of soup.
I'm 100% here for that.
Sadly, I feel like that's one of those ones where it's like actually probably a better chance than a normal food and drink round for me.
There's also the very popular, once I did, is it cheese or peas? And it's like this, the name of this pea species or a type of cheese. Which one is it? And everyone was like, would you be peas or cheese?
That's incredible.
So involving your audience in the charity as much, the event as much as, I think that translates even if you're not a gamer as a content creator, finding ways to give your community, the people that you're essentially showcasing this charity to, that you're fundraising for, giving them as much of the control to come in and be fundraising as well as in alongside you. Essentially, you're all a team doing it is kind of the goal here.
Absolutely. You can do like little art prompts, like fast art prompts if that's your thing, like stickers on the face, balloons with people's names on. There's loads of things that aren't in the game that you can embellish stuff with. If you're like an artist, like try silly speed art prompts, or like MS Paint prompts, like those are always fun. Or draw this Pokemon from memory is one that I've seen do quite well. Very cursed.
Seen some cursed creations through that.
But I don't know what Pikachu looks like.
It's always had two heads, right?
Yes. So there's loads of things you can do. I think it's every little bit. Also, it's practice as well. If you're like, oh, I might not do great, still do it, because then you've done a fundraiser. And it's just getting into the swing of how those work. Charities will be thankful for any amount you fundraise for them. And if they aren't, then they've completely missed the point of online fundraising, and probably shouldn't be in the space.
Yeah, I mean, even at its core, even if you somehow didn't, raise anything, if you've just signal boosted, as you said, like, and just brought more people, like an extra pair of eyes to that charity, that's still massive.
Just to wind back a little bit, we've already basically behind the curtain. We've got a list of questions that I pre-prep, and we jump between them all the time. This is.
I warned you as well.
No.
That's why I let you do the question bit, because I have no idea where you're going next, because I've derailed you so much.
You do warn me, but I prefer it this way, because I feel like we actually get more of a genuine. You get a more genuine interview and conversation. So a lot of these I'm jumping around, but there's one particular element that I wanted to just like more of a thing of just a piece of advice. If you're a content creator, what's the best way for you to then say you've been approached by a charity? How would you go about vetting that charity yourself, and vice versa for charities vetting content creators? Like, because I'm always tenuous, especially with anything online, of I'm worried there's a catch, and I'm always just a bit of a nervous person in that regard. Like, what would your piece of advice be when you're trying to like vet charities?
I think people panic, or they look at like what other people have done, and they're also like, oh, it's not worth me doing it because they've raised X. It's like every little bit helps. It's fair in this day and age when like we've had all kinds of things coming out that, from the charity side as much as the creator side, like very, very quickly news can happen. You're like, what? Where did this come from? How did no one see it? But also what? I can't speak for all of them. Most of them will have some sort of due diligence process, or the responsible ones will, at least, let's say. If they're just like scraping emails for the internet, that is not the way to do it. That's really irresponsible. Charities and non-profits should be doing due diligence. They normally do it for things like celebrities anyway. So they should have like in their head a list of like values, etc. That some of them make a lot of sense, some of them are a bit weird. But that's something where it's like they will look at your social media content, they will look at your videos, they will look at your VODs, your clips. I also look at how you interact with your chat, and also how your chat behave, because you are, at the end of the day, I don't like using the word, but it is technically the thing, you're an influencer, and you are responsible for the audience that you curate and that you kind of put out into the world. So if your audience are being little shit and you're kind of not dealing with it, and it's clear it's not balanced, like, that would be a bit of a flag for me. So charities will look at that stuff, but like they also, so most of the things they'll look at are directly in line with their values. So for example, if it's a food bank charity, they will be interested in whether you have fundraised for food banks before. Have you ever posted any content that's like either in support of food banks or against food banks? Like, where do you stand with that? But they also, and this is again something I'm kind of trying to work with charities on, also need to look at the bigger picture. So, for example, if you're a food bank charity, you will be working with a lot of marginalised groups, which will include sex workers. It will include trans community, Black community. Like, there's so many bits where it's like you need to also be aware of what's happening online, but also the different pockets of bigotry that exist. And you need to be able to have that stance and recognise that stance, recognise things like dog whistles, so you're not accidentally engaging with someone who is just going to undermine everything that you're working for. Sex work's a big one, like OnlyFans. They're all scared of OnlyFans. They're like, what is it? And I'm like, it's just someone making a bit of extra money on the side. Like, calm down. If they're not using the OnlyFans explicitly to fundraise for you, you're fine.
There's ways they can still show support. It doesn't have to be a
like it's like sometimes you have to sort of spell out to them, like, you do realize that we're
not asking them to place a carefully placed can of food in a shot somewhere.
No. But also there's other things.
Although it might work.
Is that the upload OnlyFans like Christmas calendar?
Oh,
but so that's the thing, is it's like it's teaching them about like grey areas isn't the right word for this, because some of it is most definitely not grey area, like sex work, right? Like, but within that as well, it's also talking to them about things like the use of AI, the use of crypto, especially when things like we had the World Wildlife Fund jumped onto NFTs, and it was like, have you actually considered the fact that this is like, you're a climate change environmental charity, you're literally undermining your own work to the extent that some people will never work with you again because of your poor judgment. It's teaching them those little bits. It's teaching them about just things like talking to them about what loot boxes are, that kind of thing. Where it's like, I'm not saying don't work with someone who opens loot boxes, but be aware that if they open a lot of loot boxes, and that's the majority of their content, you begin to enter gambling, addiction sort of topics. The government in the UK is still looking into them. There are various reports about how unregulated they are, etc. So it's explaining to them that context.
Be aware of the trends, and there's some that you can jump on and embrace, but also some that you should be like, whoa, hold your horses a little bit. Things
like crypto, for example, I'm like, I would not do it. There are certain circumstances where, yes, I will say that. So, for example, Care for Gaza, right? They are in Gaza at the moment. They're on the ground. Crypto is one of the only ways that they are getting money in. In that case, I'm like, you take that money. You take all the cryptocurrency. You use the shit out of it. Go for it, right? If you're just like a UK charity that's bumbling around, you've got bank access, you're not being shut down by like various institutions and countries, you don't really need it.
Yeah, you're not quite literally under fire. And
so it's like Ukraine and Gaza absolutely have the crypto. Please take it all. Like, enjoy the money. It's teaching them that stuff, basically, so that when they go and look at creators, they're not panicking. I found one the other day. God, I can't remember. I'm not going to actually, doesn't matter which charity, but there was someone who was a furry who played Final Fantasy. And I think that someone back in the day when they checked them didn't quite understand what a furry was. Because the poor person, I couldn't see anything wrong, had failed the check. And there was no information because it was like they'd obviously just been set up. Like, we're talking like this, some of this spreadsheet was probably like 7 or 8 years old, right? So who knows? Who knows what the reasoning for that was? Which was partly why we're going over and trying to vet it and make it all uniform. It's just like, this poor guy. Is that because? So I need to have a conversation with them about furries as well, and just be like, look, they're fine. Leave them alone. It's fine.
Just got like a thought of like Furries 101 PowerPoint presentation. Here we go. Furries are friends.
Well, yeah. The thing is as well, furries are incredibly important within our science and technology fields and medicine. Like, we've got some actual, like, proper iconic scientists who are also furries. I think the original creator of Fallout might be a furry.
Yeah, I think I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah. He's got like something like over 20 furry suits. He's very active at like the conventions. He's still doing work. He's got like patents for things. Whilst he's obviously an example, it's just like, just leave the poor furries alone.
He's happy. Like, just they're fine. Don't, like, they're not hurting you. Like, they're not going to do anything bad.
Like, if it's not on camera, like, terms of service and all that. Another fun one is also like,
Yep.
So obviously in the US and some places it's fine. So people are allowed to smoke it on stream. If you're vetting for a charity that's in the UK, it's probably a no. Found this absolutely amazing person who ticked all the boxes, joined their stream as they were taking a massive bong rip on camera. And I was like,
oh, no.
It's like, I appreciate you. I love all your work. But unfortunately, it's a no. Goodbye. There's a thing. And it's like, I don't want to ever say to that person, don't, like, you are in a place where it's legal. You're doing it medically. Like, I'm not going to ever say don't do that. But it's like, sometimes, unfortunately, those things. Similar thing to like drinking on stream, right? If you're not doing it, like, you're not doing it a lot, but you're having a couple, there are still some places that, like, we don't work with people who drink on stream. It's like, that's fine. That's the same deal out in the world, right? Like, they don't work with celebrities, for example, who endorse drinks. So long as they're not being absurd about it or being like rude about it is the main thing as well. It's just like, don't engage. If that's a person where it's like, this won't pass due diligence, you don't need to reach out to them. Job done.
For creators on the creator standpoint, are there any good tools in which a creator can check, for example, if it's the first time they've been approached by a charity, where essentially what the funds they're raising, what that's going to? Some charities are, pretty forward with, giving at least a guideline of this will help get so many aid packets, or this will get you, this will feed a family for a week, that kind of thing. whereas others aren't. I was just wondering if there's any good tools. If not, is that somewhere that we feel like the industry needs to get better at?
I think it needs to get better, but it's hard because you have the American nonprofits. Like, the problem is, like, there's different rules for charities across the world, right? So we can't necessarily apply the UK rules to everybody. I'd say if they're marked as an official charity, and that is a good start, but actually no, there's a couple of charities who probably shouldn't be, who are out there just doing bad things in the LGBTQ community. It is a good start to look at things like news articles. A lot of charities would also have like annual reports if you go digging, which aren't necessarily going to be that exciting to read, but may have a little bit of a breakdown of we gave this to this and this. They'll also tell you potentially their sponsors. So, like, for example, one charity I'm working with has quite a lot of sponsors, but randomly in there, Walt Disney. I don't know exactly why or where or how it's fit in, but thanks, Disney. Strange. So it's like you can have a little vet of those kind of things if they've got that stuff out there. It can be challenging if they're going to deliberately hide it from you. Not everything will give you that information, but things like their social media, if they've got videos on YouTube, like that can be quite handy. Something I try and encourage charities to do is it's like, I want you to have these updates. I want you to say like, hey, it doesn't have to be an online digital thing. I don't care what campaign it's from. Tell me about the campaign and what it's done. Show me what you've done. Because not only is it helpful for them going, is this charity good? Is it doing stuff? But also if you fundraise, those little videos you can use in like BRB breaks. I don't go the full haul with comic relief because there's quite a lot of guilt tripping that happens there. It's unfortunately, it does like do the ha comedy, happy times, and then quite hardcore videos. And then you have to come back to the happy place. And it's like that. Okay, with a maybe professional host presented setup, it kind of works. For a streamer, that's a lot to ask of a streamer and an audience to be like, here's a really sad story with no resolution of someone who's in pain. Shall we fundraise now? It's like, that doesn't work. So it's like, I always want them to have, I said, you can have something that's a horrible story, but it needs to have some sort of uplifting ending. Even if it's not, and I'm not saying like scrub every single negative video that you've got. These impactful things are really important. But having variety is good because it means that I can go, hey, I could tell you about this charity myself, but actually I'm going to let them tell you, here's some people they've helped.
That's the sort of stuff I used for Can Partners a couple of years ago. I said, look, I can see you've got a load of like partner stories on your YouTube channel. You've not loaded for a few years, but could I use some of those? You've also got some training videos showing what they teach from puppy stage to dog stage. And I mean,
yeah, perfect.
And then we had that as breaks, or kind of when I was jumping in between different games, I was like, now let's just, they're 3 to 5 minute videos, perfect for a little break. And it's like, here we go. Who can better show what the charity's doing than the charity themselves within those pieces that they've already produced and done. And yeah, it was very easy to kind of just, get the downloads of the videos and use them.
And again, if they're putting the effort into that and you can see them. So like, again, food bank ones, you have things like they go around, they talk to the cooks, they talk to the people unpacking stuff at the warehouse, they talk to the people who are being served. In some cases, they're like, I now volunteer because they help me out so much. It's like, that stuff is so important. Facts and figures are kind of handy. It's always good to have some, like, what will £5 get me, £10, etc.
It's that human connection, seeing.
It is the human connection. It's going to have a lot more impact of someone going like, this helped me and now I'm here to help from an authentic place than wheeling out the CEO who's like, we feed people around the country. Like, thanks, mate, but no.
It's important about showing people there's other ways to contribute and support these charities than just financial. Because some people might go, I'm in tough time, obviously cost of living and everything. Everyone's, really feeling that. And, people are thinking, well, okay, if I can't afford it, have I got a few hours that maybe I could do something? And maybe that inspires them to go and volunteer at a local charity place or join one of their activities, because go and understand it. Even, I think I hate that thing when you see charities that they do those subscription things and they're like, yeah, but that very quickly spirals. And I find that quite I know they're not meant to like be predatory, but I find that quite a scary, and I get that they can do some really cool things with those things when they've got a lot of money like pooling in with those bits and pieces. And I know that they're not designed to put people off, But I would much rather be like, I'd rather just give a one-off donation, or can you give you some of my time? Can I help you out in any other way than those sorts of things that you sometimes see as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a couple of charities are like, oh, would you like to have a tour? Come and have a tour. It's like, it's a good start to do some things like that. They are unfortunately going to have to still do things like travel and maybe accommodation. Like that is still a conversation or something that has to be considered. But there are a couple of places, and I think especially with the animal charities, it works better because you're like, do you want to come and see some cats? I've seen a couple of things where they're like, you look on the website of the charity and they're like, would you like a tour? Come and have a tour. And I've said to some charities, I'm like, you literally offer a tour. Like, just, you can sign up for it. Why don't you approach creators who have fundraised for you in the past, or you want them to fundraise, and see if they'll come and do stuff? And they can film it, but also like you could film it. Everyone gets content.
If, for example, you're an animal sanctuary or something along those lines, do like a little open day where you have a crew, you invite a load of creators, they walk around, they have talks, show how the fundraising has been effective, that kind of thing.
It's not necessarily going to like convert every single time to fundraising, but if you target the people who are already engaged, if you approach the people who actually have a connection with you in a relationship, you are more likely to then have this payoff. And it's just things like that. Again, it's bridging that gap. It's teaching charities that, hello, we're real people, and potentially there are some things that you could do in real life that synergize really well with online. Like the big one is always like streaming isn't all gaming, and we go from there, which is always fun.
We've talked a lot about charities, but there's a couple of other topic areas that you are both a very big advocate for and talk a lot about, and also I feel like your opinion is very valid on. One of them being ADHD is there could be a good secondary name for the conversations we have on this podcast. It's something that we actually also recently surface covered, talk about the experiences of going through ADHD and how it's like impacting content creation and stuff.
I like how you've asked me this, considering I talked at you at TwitchCon about it. I apologize to everyone who's asked me about this in recent, like the last few months, because it has just been, here is my life experience. A lot of the time, though, it is because people are like, what is the path, as opposed to how ADHD. So the gist is, I am one of many women in my mid-30s, basically realized post the changing of the diagnostic criteria for ADHD, but also the pandemic, and quite frankly, also just going into our 30s, hormonally, stuff changes. Not doing great. Maybe there's a reason for that. Oh, it's undiagnosed ADHD. In my case, it's inattentive. So it's like the mind fog, the distraction. I ended up talking to a couple of people who had been diagnosed like a couple of years before about the path. I ended up doing something called Right to Choose, which is, I believe, only available in England. It should be everywhere. It's a pain. Basically, what it means is the NHS offloads you onto a private company who will do all the stuff and then put you back in the system. Got into that, was diagnosed in, was it May of last year? And then started medication in September. And what they do is you fill out a load of forms. You have to link it all back to your childhood, like prove that the symptoms that you've got now haven't just appeared, right? Then if you are diagnosed, and they can diagnose you with like 3 different things. It can be inattentive, it can be hyperactive, which is like, they're both hyperactive. It's more in your brain with inattentive. Hyperactive is often a little bit more visibly like on the surface, right? Or combined, which is a lovely combination of the two. Have fun working out which percentage you've got. Got medicated in September, began titration, which is where they put you on a 8 to 12 week course to work out what drug, how much of that drug. Rotated back into the NHS in like January of this year, basically have been on meds up until very recently, when the national shortage has finally caught up. The pharmacist explained to me, I literally went in yesterday because they owed me some pills because I was away for TwitchCon and Develop. I had to request some early and explain that. And they were like, we haven't got a full month, but here's some pills that we've like gathered together from leftover boxes.
Squirreled away.
Yeah. Like literally, here's a tiny bottle of like some, and we'll give you some more later. Went back in, there are none. And the pharmacist was like, yeah, I am basically in a load of like, they're all in WhatsApp groups with each other. because they try and work out where stock is, right? They literally are trying to get the meds to you. And it's not just this, there's insulin, there's a load of other drugs where this shortage is a problem. And it goes back to April, apparently 2023. They were supposed to get a massive load of drugs. Didn't happen. What we're seeing now is that catch up. The drugs are great. They did a really good job when I was on the correct ones.
That's the podcast title, isn't it? The drugs are great.
The drugs are great. So like basically in like 3 days, I'm going to be running out of the replacement meds that I was on, which are, they do a lot of good work. They do still rein it in. But I think because this is the first year, and what you do at the end of the year is you have your check and go, is this the right dosage? I was probably going to go up anyway, because it's doing stuff, but I don't think it's doing as much stuff as it could. And there was a worry when I first started titration that if I didn't want to have like so much of it that it, like I lost my personality, or like some of the like chaotic energy, like that sort of thing. It's like that has to kind of stay. There's a balance to be struck here. But I do think I need to go up. But we shall see. If my meds also get changed, because at the moment we're trying to also look at if we can change the type. So you have the base chemical type, whichever it is. There's a couple of different ones. You also have brand names, but then you have like the form they come in. So are they hard tablets, like your paracetamol, or are they capsules, right? So at the moment I'm on tablets, but apparently this is the situation in the UK. It's like, apparently there are more capsules out there somewhere in the ether. So I've messaged my doctor, because this is what you have to do, to go, hey, this is the situation. We've already changed it once. Like we initially, my medication prescription was for the brand of this drug. Whereas now it's for the chemicalness of it. Hang on a sec, one moment, the door, I'll be right back. Sorry. Yeah, so we changed it. They put it down as Delmasart, which is the brand name. Delmasart ran out, which is a pain because it was great. I was having a lovely time on that. Because they all have a slightly different release schedule as well. So like when they distribute the drug throughout the day, some go really hard in the morning, some do a little bit and then pace out. So whatever was going on in that one, beautiful. Then swapped to just the chemical name of the drug on the prescription, so that it meant that pharmacy was not stuck going, well, we don't have this. We do have this one. So it's like that gave them a bit more freedom, but then the tablets have run out. And because it says tablets on it,
you can't have capsules. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, I can't do this. It's like, I'd love to just be able to do this and change it for you, but it has to be changed. And then in addition to that, the capsules have different dosage amounts.
Oh.
We can't actually make the correct dosage for me with capsules. I have to go for the closest rounded number below that amount. I'm on like 54. And I think I'd probably want to go up to, I can't remember what the next level up is, like somewhere in the 70s, right? So that's something I want to try and do at the end of the year anyway, depending on if this stuff is even about anymore. But the capsules come in like 10s, 20s, and 50s. So I couldn't go up to a 60 because it's not cleared. I'm only cleared up to 54. But I can have a 50. But because there's 3 different types, like size-wise, if the 50s run out, they can make it up out of 10s and 20s. Absolute carnage, absolute chaos. Like, I feel for, like, the pharmacists as much as everyone is affected. She said the other day, she's like, I had an RAF pilot come in. And I was like, I mean...
That's someone I feel like we
prioritize,
should...
yeah. Exactly, right?
Please give them their pills.
Yeah. Please don't ask someone to fly a very expensive plane at high precision maneuvers, and also like the Air Force, to not be medicated. And apparently he'd been going around the entire city, couldn't find anything. And I was just like, that's a problem. Like, I'm obviously sitting here on the drugs at the moment. They are going to run out. But in the grand scheme of things...
We caught you at a good time.
Yeah, don't fly a jet anytime soon and probably all right.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's just like, of all the people, yes, I could do with it. But there's going to be like surgeons and that out there, you know, who are like, and some who are going to have really debilitating as well. Like mine it's not great. It's noticeable. My other half went from going, I don't think you've got it, to, no, she's got it. Post-meds. But like, at least I know I've got a diagnosis, and I can't necessarily, I don't know if I'll be able to cope, as it were, but it's like I sort of dragged myself through 36 years. So we'll see. And it is also, as more people are getting diagnosed or thinking about it as well, it's a little bit easier to be like, meds, I haven't got any, I'm having a bad day. Because more people out there are like, oh, I get it.
The awareness is out there now, and also the diagnosis has changed. I went onto the NHS website actually Tuesday night because I filled in a right to choose for myself. And one of the things it said on the right to choose was like, it is currently the theory that it doesn't develop later in life. I was like, I wonder if there's some testing going on there.
There is a long form testing the other way around, which is actually interesting because I can't remember if I told you about this one, but it's like if you get kids the meds at the right time, again, this is the only study we have. It's like a 10-year long study where kids were medicated and caught early. A small percentage of them stopped needing meds later in life because whatever was going on in their brain. So that the gist is with ADHD, you either can't process the dopamine efficiently or you don't make enough.
Yeah, it's like an imbalance, isn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like something is going on up there where you're not very good with it. You're a bit of a dopamine fiend naturally in your brain because you can't get it.
That needs to be on a t-shirt. I'm a dopamine fiend.
So there's a theory, and again, this is like more studies are needed, and we might get more, where those specific kids, and again, a tiny percentage of people medicated, are potentially a portion of the ADHD community where that those meds are providing a framework for their brain to develop and not to use the word fix, but reduce the effects of ADHD because the dopamine bit of the brain is slightly more neurotypical. Who knows? Brains are fascinating. They're a pain in the bum, but they are fascinating. And yeah, so I think whilst that is very rare, the other way round, I think less likely. I think it's just more all of like all the training wheels, all the social like constructions and like mechanisms that you've built have gone.
Don't notice it, and then suddenly,
So things like the pandemic,
the blinders are off, and you suddenly go, actually, I've done this. I've always done this, or I've always felt like this way. Or I've always,
which is where
when we spoke about it on the podcast before, we sort of said, there's obviously a lot more people looking into it, and some people look, I think broadly, it's when, especially when you look at like children. A lot of children display very typical ADHD-like symptoms as they develop, but it's when they stay doing those things because most either grow out of them or they change or things around that mellow out or whatever. Because there's a lot of confusion when people like look at it, they typically go, well, is that ADHD or is that? It's like, well, a lot of things are quite common for people to experience at some point. Broadly speaking, most people experience some kind of symptoms or something like that at some stage in their life. It's when they've persisted for either their whole life or a very long period. That's when I think we said, by all means, go and, seek some medical advice and some guidance, take it further. The best thing is that we are all talking more broadly about this and actually sharing. And, again, I think it's a lot of almost generational thing of like, stiff upper lip, don't talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially with girls and women, because
yeah, definitely.
Sit down, stay quiet, do what you're told.
A certain way. Yeah. If you're not acting like that, or there's something wrong, but hush away in the cupboard.
Yeah, shush now, shush. Yeah, exactly. And it's like
a witch. That's it's I mean it's especially if you've got like older grandparents or something like that, or old family members. You mention something kind of like jokingly because you're trying to process it yourself, and they'll be like, "Oh yes, that's how we deal with that," and you'd be like,
My dad, bless him. So they are older, my parents, and we've sort of bridged it. But I'm like, you don't know what the heck this is. That's fine. So I told them I have it because I was like, well, quite a lot of my like social media stuff mentions it now. So if you ever came wandering in, which they don't do that often, but occasionally they do, you might be like, what's this going on? And bless him, my dad was like, oh yeah, this sounds, if this has existed when I was at school, I'd probably have had that too. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that you have autism, my dude.
Yeah.
Like mum's the ADHD in the family, but like, bless him, he's got his model trains and he likes all of that. He's a quiet little man who does his thing. But it was very much a case of like, oh yeah, these creative types back in the day, they would have been diagnosed as ADHD if it existed. And he pulls out Leonardo da Vinci, because he's definitely definitely a chill, normal man with his like. It definitely didn't rebel against the church or anything with science. Einstein, notoriously not neurotypical. We don't know exactly what, but and then William Shakespeare, who bless my dad, I think he forgot that I have a master's in English, and Shakespeare was not one man. He was a troupe of people that rotated around constantly. There are various different versions of Shakespeare plays that are written in different hands. Will was a spicy boy anyway. It's just,
Yeah.
so it's like the three
Enjoyed his
things.
stuff.
In a lot of ways,
I was like,
to be fair.
you've picked the wrong fight here, father.
Yeah.
So yeah, like they won't understand.
Or you get the whole, like, oh yeah, you went through that. I'm still going through that now, actually. I've just, I've tried my best to handle that or cope with that. Okay, some people, yeah, go through phases and stuff. It's completely different from what we're trying to have that conversation about.
They also come from the generation where it's like, if it's depression, you give yourself a good talking to and get on with it. And it's like, that's not their fault. It's the stiff upper lip thing. But the wild thing is as well, right? Sometimes they won't like tell you everything. So like my gran had a depressive stage, but again, gave herself a good talking to, but also find out a couple of years later that she'd also had electroshock therapy for depression.
Oh,
And I'm like,
Oh,
do you not think that like, I'm not like, not like the extreme stuff, but it did used to get used as a little like, okay, you're feeling better. And I'm like, was it postpartum? Was this after having kids? Like, I don't have enough details, and I probably never will.
What were the environmental factors as well? Because if we take away the environmental factors and it's still happening, then yeah, there's probably something going on underlying that we can talk about. But
I'm like, you didn't give yourself a good talking to, ma'am. There was some electricity involved as well. Like, come on.
Suddenly, like, oh, I'm completely soaking. It's because you're in a river. It's gonna take you out of the river. Are you still wet now? You dried off. No. Well, there we go. Well, yeah, you'll get there. Let the sun dry you out. Yeah, that's a whole other. That's the really bad analogy, but it's the one that came to hand at the time and kind of works until you picked it all apart.
Again, we are a group of people that could talk for England, I think. So I think we do need to round it out. But Hannah, just finally on that, just to round out the ADHD topic, any good resources that you know of? We've spoke a little bit about Right to Choose for the UK, but especially for women as well, as it is a fresher diagnosis. Like, is there anything that you would sort of advise? If not, again, a reminder, we are not trained medical practitioners. We are three idiots on the internet who have been on the internet way too long, possibly.
What I would say is, if you've got ADHD, the hyperfocus will find you, like, and you will go down a hole. If you want to find actual good resources, please look at studies. Like, please read actual studies. I did psychology A level. At one point, I wanted to be a criminal profiler, right? Got quite like a decent baseline of various weird bits of psychology, but as a result, knowing about things like studies, and where to find things like that. So, like, look at studies. Ideally, don't look at main media stuff, because at the moment we have quite a lot of like exaggeration, naysaying, fear mongering, which does not help. Try and find like the
scientific journals almost, and the actual research papers themselves.
Yeah, the scientific journals, but also things like, some people are going to go, what are you saying? TikTok. There are a couple of places like ADHD Love, I think it is, which is a couple with a channel, and it's more of a personal experience. It's the subjective side of ADHD, which is never covered in the diagnostic stuff. It's not someone going, oh, I don't like socks, therefore I must have ADHD. It's not that. It's more of it talks about like emotional regulation, being able to do tasks, all of those kind of things. It also talks about like their backstory and how they struggled with things like money and alcohol and stuff because of the undiagnosed ADHD. So there's a load of places out there that will have subjective content that will help just build a bigger picture of maybe what's going on in your brain. So like for me, I have emotional regulation issues, but also rejection sensitivity. So those are two things that you can find across neurodivergent spaces. But with the ADHD side, what it does is it basically pulls every single scenario that could possibly go wrong and plays it all at once. And it like goes to panic mode immediately. So that's what's going on in my brain. That stuff is quite often not talked about, again, in diagnostic criteria. A lot of it is very much like, what can we see from the outside, which is why we've had all this like women in their 30s now being diagnosed, because we just all sat there and disassociated. Those things are kind of helpful. You want to like pick from different places. You want to build an overall picture of what's going on. There are also various TikToks that will talk you through things like Right to Choose. That will explain what it is. They're not going to give you all the answers to the questionnaires, because that's your thing to do, but they will explain to you the process. And I think that's super helpful. There are also like various, I don't know where it's gone. This is very ADHD of me. I bought a book about ADHD and task management and I've lost it. But there's a couple of things out there like handbooks that can be helpful and manuals, but it basically has to be the right kind of manual for you. Like, for example, I bought that and then was like, when I'm medicated, I'll use it. No, I've got my own weird setup for task management-y things, which is not perfect.
So do I. It's called Foxy DMing me when I forgot to do something.
Yeah, I have to write it down. If I don't write it down, it's gone. Yeah, explore it. But like, I think I looked into it for an entire year before I got into the Right to Choose like request, because I was like, I'm not sure. I'd always thought I was slightly different all the way through school, and a part of me was like autism, but it was back when it was still Asperger's. It was back when we were still pushing the high and low functioning autism, which it basically is a dodgy way of doing it, because high and low functioning is not actually the person, it's in their relation to society and society's own like rules and regulations. So it's a bit of a naff way of describing it. But I was like, that doesn't feel like it fits. Like, it doesn't feel like it's...
Yeah, that's not accurately describing me, yeah.
And I did wonder if when I got medicated, whether there would be autism, because there is sometimes a crossover. Some people have autism and ADHD, and sometimes when they're medicated for the ADHD, the autism like properly turns up and goes, hi, I was always here. But no, that's in my case, no. I think it's just straightforward inattentive ADHD, which I regularly call intermittent ADHD, and I feel like that's also a good name for this thing, because it sometimes it behaves itself very nicely. Sometimes my brain will just go, no, I'm not doing that today, and it's like a little bit of like the RAM in the computer has decided it's just going to go off and do its own thing.
I think that's a fantastic place to end this. And again, at one point, I feel like this is going to be, we'll have to invite you back if you're willing to come back on, because this is...
I would love to.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Because I feel like
we've got so much
more topics.
Yeah, there's a list. Like, I mentioned Remedy. I mentioned horror. I could go for days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Lion always say that this podcast, more than anything, is just our therapy, but also our way to just talk about the industry, because creators do not get the chance to quite often.
It's everything we keep up here, and we're like, I need to share this with people, but I'm alone in a room. Oh, no.
Hannah, do you have anything you'd like to promote? Is there anything that you'd like to get out there? Where can people find you? That kind of thing.
You can find me at twitch.tv/Lomadiah or Lomadiah.com, both spelt with an H at the end. I don't think I have anything in particular to promote. I mean, if you're a charity, I do charity consultancy. I'm also doing workshops. Actually, that's a good one. I do workshops that are ticketed. I need to like put the next set of dates out for them all for charities. They are super affordable. That's another thing in the industry, is workshops are ridiculously expensive for be told very little. So I try and price them as really affordable for everybody, all the entry points. Once those are all set up, working, like I've done all the presentations and so forth, free creator resources. The flip side of that, so what we're saying about due diligence, teaching you what due diligence is, those kind of things. Like I want to be able to do those and have them for free, so that creators aren't, we're bridging that gap. So if you are a charity or a creator and you want to be kept in the loop about either, there is a contact form on the website, and you can shout at me about both, and I will keep you informed.
You'll be able to find that website as well in our show notes for this episode. We'll make sure that's there. But yeah, thank you for coming on, and we'll catch you next time we upload.